Hey folks, Tito, Jeff Thitoff here with you with another edition of the Buckeye Blitz. This is on FanStream Sports, powered by DSP Media. Make sure you follow me on the X, on formerly Twitter, I guess we'll call it, @ThitHappens, where you can find me there. Lots to get into today. By the way, go to FanStreamSports.com, get all of our latest content, download the free app for Apple and Android users, get all of our round-the-clock programming. So many great shows we keep adding all the time to what's going on here in sports. And we keep, again, in Tampa and Dallas, all around the country, we've got great new content all the time. So men's basketball for Ohio State ended the season. Look, I know it's not over technically, but for all intents and purposes, it is. Ended with a thud, losing 77-70 to Iowa in the opening round of the Big Ten tournament. Ohio State, the men get in as a number 10 seed after losing to Indiana, a game they had a double-digit lead in and blew it, which has been kind of the recurring theme lately with this team, unfortunately. And then they played the number 15 seed Iowa, the lowest seeded team. 15 of the 18 teams in the Big Ten make the Big Ten tournament. Iowa was the last team in. They only got in by beating Nebraska on the last day of the regular season. Iowa comes in and takes care of Ohio State 77-70. Ohio State sputtered down the stretch. And we'll talk about the game. I guess we'll talk about the game briefly, and then we'll get into what's going to happen next for Ohio State. But it was the recurring theme for Ohio State again was like nothing in the bench, nothing at all. Quez Glover, Aaron Bradshaw, Evan Mahaffey, and Colin White came off the bench. The four of them were the guys who did not start for Ohio State but did play in the game. They combined to just score just 3 points in 27 minutes. According to Adam Jardy from the Columbus Dispatch, Ohio State's bench was outscored 168-59 over their last 7 games. And it's too bad that Ohio State has stumbled like this. They had so many winnable games this year that they lost. Things were looking so great after the big win over Kentucky. Kentucky is a damn good team. The Buckeyes thumped them by 20 points. And things were looking up for Ohio State at that point. And even later in the season, we got down the stretch here. Ohio State had a great chance. It looked like to make the NCAA tournament. And then we had Bruce Thornton throw up the 8-foot air ball against Michigan in a game that could have really made a difference there. The 70-49 loss at home to Northwestern. Northwestern's only first road win of the year. Inexcusable for Ohio State to have that kind of a struggle down the stretch. And inconsistency across the board. Aaron Bradshaw, over 7 feet tall. And I don't understand how somebody that big can not get rebounds at all. And that's what it's almost like he's allergic to the paint. So anyways, Aaron Bradshaw, big disappointment there for Ohio State this year. And he comes over to Kentucky as, a former 5-star, all these high hopes for him. He was unavailable sometimes this season because of some off-the-court stuff going on. But Aaron Bradshaw seems to be like he would be the perfect power forward if you have a good center. Unfortunately, Ohio State needed him to play the center, and he wasn't that good at it this year. And quite frankly, I don't see how he can get better. And I don't understand why we get in the situation now with Ohio State where they've had soft bigs, it seems like, way too often lately. So we'll see what happens there with Ohio State. And Meechie Johnson also, by the way, was a huge loss for Ohio State. Played like the first 10 or 11 games. He was somebody we were going to count on this year. He comes in and leaves the team for personal reasons early on. I'm not sure what the reasons were on that one, but I know that he and Aaron Bradshaw were both big-time guys coming in. They were well compensated in NIL, and they unfortunately, they did not. Meechie Johnson unavailable, Aaron Bradshaw sometimes unavailable, did not live up to what we were expecting from him. So Ohio State now, what happens next? Look, they're 17-15. I know that if you're looking at different websites with the Selection Sunday coming up, it's like they're, one of the first 4 out or one of the next 4 out. They're not going to make the tournament. So it doesn't matter what happens now. They're 17-15. They're not going to take a 17-15 Ohio State team and put them into the tournament. So what happens next is you've got the College Basketball Crown. Is this new tournament takes place in Las Vegas. It'll be a 16-team tournament. And there's NIL involved, and you get some kind of name, image, likeness stuff you'll get when you go out there. But the way it's set up, the Big Ten, Big 12, and the Big Ten, Big 12, and the ACC have all committed that their top 2 ranked teams, top 2 rated teams that don't make the NCAA tournament are committed to go to that. So Ohio State will very likely be one of those. So they won't go to the NIT, but they will go to this College Basketball Crown, which will be a tournament out in Las Vegas. It takes place end of March. It's not like happening right away. There's some time. I think March 31st is the first round of games at out there in Vegas. So Ohio State will very likely be involved in that. The only way that Ohio State would not be involved as if there's a mass exodus of players that would where they couldn't field the team. I don't think that will be the case. The offseason, though, will be interesting for Ohio State to see what they do and who leaves, who isn't invited back, and who they bring in. They've got 5 of their top 6 scorers could return next year. There's 3 really important ones that have to come back. And those are the ones, that's Bruce Thornton, who averaged 17.7 points and 4.6 assists. His 4.6 assists led the team to 17.7, also leading scorer there. You had Devin Royal with 13.7 points a game, led the team in rebounding, just under 7 a game. And John Mobley, the freshman, 13 points a game. Micah Parrish is the only one of the top 6 that's gone. He averaged 13.3 points a game as a fifth-year senior. So, you got to see it as those 3 guys. I hope they all come back. I would not blame them if they didn't. Look, Thornton's going to have his final year here, and, Bruce Thornton should be in the NCAA tournament, and it's too bad that the Ohio State season ended the way it did. Bruce Thornton is a dynamic scorer, and he's an important player on this team. I hope he comes back to Ohio State. Again, I hope all 3 of those guys do, and then he can fill out around them on what they want to do as far as the supporting cast goes, and they've got to get a couple of bigs in. John Diebler finishing his first year here of a 5-year deal. So I know there's talk about, maybe they should get rid of Diebler. No, you don't get rid of Diebler, not in the first year of a 5-year deal. And I understand the frustration of Ohio State fans. I'm frustrated as well. This team should have been in the NCAA tournament. And the way I look at it now is, and I've said this for a few years now, Ohio State's, the worst they should be is a first-round loser in the NCAA tournament. Making the tournament should be the baseline for Ohio State men's basketball, the baseline. Everything after that's nice. I mean, a Sweet 16 year, that'd be a really good year, I think. We don't have the expectations like we do for the football team as far as, being a championship caliber team. Ohio State has not won a national championship in basketball since the 1960 season, so it's been a hot minute. And I think if you ask Ohio State fans, sure, they could throw more money at basketball and try to get even better players through NIL, but I think Ohio State fans would not want to take away from the football program to fund a better basketball team, if that makes sense. There's only so much money you can have. Eventually donors are going to stop and say, look, we can't give any more. And I think Ohio State fans as a whole, if you took a survey, most of them would want the football team to have their success. Not to say the basketball team can't have success, they should. But football's the priority at Ohio State still. And it's always going to be that way. Sure, we had to run with Thad Matta. We had to run with Randy Ayers for a while. And the Thad years were great. Don't get me wrong. With the Odin Conley and all of that, those were fantastic years. When you had John Diebler here, when you had Evan Turner here, those were fantastic teams for Ohio State, and it was a lot of fun. But Ohio State, though, is always, I do believe they've got to make the NCAA tournament every year still, regardless. They should do that. We'll see what Diebler does here in the offseason. They got a couple of guys coming in already. Amari Bynum is a 6'8", 210-pound four-star power forward from Link Academy in Nebraska. We'll see what he can do next year. And Dorian Jones is a top player in the state of Ohio. He's from Richmond Heights up in Cleveland. He's a 6'3" shooting guard, another four-star. So Ohio State will certainly have to dip into the transfer portal. They're going to need more size next year. There's no doubt about that. Whereas the Selection Sunday show for the men's side at 6 o'clock Eastern time, I'm not anticipating, obviously, hearing Ohio State's name called there. The women are sweating it out for Ohio State, and that'll be at 8 o'clock Eastern time on that one. Kevin McGuff's team is right now teetering on a 4 or a 5 seed is where they're probably going to be. Obviously, a 4 seed, you're a top 16 seed overall. You get to host the first 2 rounds. A 5 seed means you're on the road somewhere, and it's a huge advantage to have this in the NCAA tournament on the women's side. So the Ohio State, when we're watching that, I think right now I would say they're going to be a 4 seed. I think there was between them and Alabama probably for that final number 4 seed. And Alabama lost early in the SEC tournament. So I think that'll give the edge to Ohio State. Bottom line, though, on the women's side, if you fill out a women's bracket, and I do, but if you fill one out, look, USC, UCLA, South Carolina, those schools in Connecticut, those 4 schools are a cut above everybody else, in my opinion. I would be shocked if those 4 all get number 1 seeds, and I think they will. If those are the 4 number 1 seeds on the women's side, I think that's your Final Four as well. I don't see them losing. I've seen Ohio State's a great team, don't get me wrong, but UCLA and USC play on a different level, it seems like to me. And Ohio State's got to strive to get there. Ohio State would have to play a damn near perfect game to beat one of those 4 teams. Not to say they can't. If Ohio State's defense shows up, if they can get UCLA's bigs in foul trouble, or if they can neutralize Juju Watkins for USC, Ohio State's got a chance in those games. But it's going to be really tough for any team other than those four to make it to the Final Four. Those four, I think, can be the ones. And, Connecticut, look, Gino's got them rolling again. South Carolina is so damn deep. And UCLA and USC, they're the class of the Big Ten. So, Selection Sunday coming up. We'll see what happens there. We'll have a reaction to that as well. But Ohio State men, all likelihood, the college basketball crown in Las Vegas is where they will be headed, unless, of course, something happens. They have some kind of mass exodus of players and cannot field a team. All right, that's it for the Buckeye Blitz. I'm Tito, Jeff Thitoff. Follow me on the X, @ThitHappens, where you can find me there. Download the free FanStream Sports app. It's free for Apple and Android users. Check it out, get all of our programming, and we'll talk to you again soon. Let's pray for some good news for Ohio State on Selection Sunday for the women's side, and we'll see what happens with the men.